What was interesting about the Hassan Piker getting detained situation was how people covered the story. And I thought that that is where we should start. I want to show you how two different places covered the story. And then the third is an interview of Hassan on NBC. And I just want you to pay attention to the ways that people have been downplaying what's been happening. Because I know you're thinking Hassan is privileged, nothing bad happened to him, quote unquote. But you have to remember that the fact that it happened to him in the first place is the issue that we're having, that American citizens are being detained no matter who they are and being asked questions about their thoughts about the president and, quote, the war. And I think that's that's something that's not only suspicious, but something that we should be very concerned about, right? Because I know that people are saying, oh, you're too paranoid. Why are you making this a big deal? I think it is a big deal. I think it is a big deal. Okay, so pay attention to this. I thought it was interesting. This is the New York Post, which, not a fan of. Liberal loudmouth streamer Hassan Piker claims he was detained by U.S. immigration officers. So pay attention to the way that is framed. Liberal loudmouth streamer Hassan Piker claims he was detained by U.S. immigration officials. Let's listen to see how they covered this story.
Champagne socialist streamer Hassan Piker claims U.S. immigration officials attempted to detain him permanently after they allegedly stopped him for questioning when he arrived from France to Chicago over the weekend. In a 40-minute live stream, Piker recounted the incident, alleging that agents bombarded him with questions about his views on Hamas, hinting at what he described as an attempt to build a case against him. They straight up tried to get something out of me that I think they could use to basically detain me permanently, Piker told his audience, insisting that he kept his responses firm and repetitive. I kept repeating the same statement over and over again. I kept saying, I'm on the side of civilians. I want the endless bloodshed to end. I am a pacifist. I want wars to end, he claimed. Piker, who has cheered both Hamas and Houthi terrorists on his platforms, portrayed himself as bravely stonewalling the agents' questions, even as he is known for repeatedly calling Israelis inbred and defending some of the most extreme positions regarding the October 7th Hamas terror attack against Israel that left more than 1,200 people dead. The far-left streamer claimed that the detention was part of a broader effort to create an environment of fear and suppress dissenting voices like his. Nothing I have done online is illegal as of now, he said, warning that laws may change in the future and they might actually start prosecuting speech, which I do fear is the goal of this administration. Despite his claims of oppression, Piker is widely known for his lavish lifestyle, driving a $200,000 Porsche, living in a multi-million-dollar home in West Hollywood, and raking in millions of dollars a year from his online streaming ventures. During the 2 hours he claimed he was detained, Piker said he feared that customs...
I'm sorry, that reporting was crazy, bro. The way they had the conversation, the way that it like twisted in a particular fashion, the way she's like bringing up these random points, like, are we not pro-free speech? Are you not concerned that Americans are being detained? Yes or no? And this is why conservatives are so funny. And all of us need to stop pointing fingers like, oh, Obama spent this much on golfing. Trump spent this much on golfing. Stop. Can we please be serious about the issues? People are dying. Like, this isn't funny. People are like having problem with housing and education and resources for their kids. And then here we are just pointing fingers at the fact that Hassan has money. Yeah, America is a diverse place in which you can be the richest and the poorest, in which people who make it can also advocate for people who haven't. And the fact is that not most people aren't going to make it. Hassan is an exception to the rule, not proof that America works. And so that's the problem. And Hassan rose to power because people felt they resonated with his message. He was lucky that he was one of the many people who were frustrated with the system, and he rose to fame. I don't know why other streamers aren't. I don't know why other people aren't rising to fame, but him being the exception is not a good example of a system working. So her pointing out that, oh, he has this car, he's a millionaire, he's a champagne socialist. So which one is it? Is he a champagne socialist or is he a far leftist? Because I feel like those two things are not exactly the same thing. I feel like she's insulting the fact that he's not leftist enough, but then saying like he's such an extremist. And also his Hamas takes are, I'm sorry, they're like almost like too nuanced for the average person to understand. He's not defending Hamas's massacre of civilians. We're just saying it's not that much different from the US military going in and killing civilians. Discord said, is it a hot take to say, even if it has Hamas tunnels, a hospital is too far? Again, bombing civilian places in order to get Hamas is like bombing American malls in order to kill Nazis. You can't bomb a US mall to kill the 10 Nazis who are in the mall. You can't bomb a hospital to kill the 10 Hamas soldiers in the hospital. You can't do it. It's immoral. It's unethical. It's so disgusting. And the justification from these men is just it's like a distraction from the reality that they're just seeking power and prominence. That Netanyahu has made it clear that at the expense of all the Palestinians, he will, quote, protect the Israelis. This isn't about protecting Jews. This is about killing all Palestinians because you literally think you're better than them. It's just not about protecting Israelis. We don't, if protecting Israelis means genociding all of Palestinians, like, what are we talking about? I personally would not want to protect my family at the expense of a whole population. Like, that's not the way we go about solving problems.
And Border Protection agents would seize his phone or laptop, although neither was confiscated. His elaborate recap of the alleged incident comes amid a trend of influencers and activists posting exaggerated stories of brushes with immigration officials for online celebrity. Over the weekend, an anti-Trump TikTok user named Eye of Sav posted a video claiming she was held for hours while Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents inspected her phone.
Wow, I'm surprised they even mentioned her.
And social media accounts. DHS, however, publicly disputed her claims, calling them...
Oh, so now, okay, I was surprised they were showing her case because she's another good example of it's happening to other people. And no, they're just downplaying it and saying it doesn't matter. She's a TikToker. She creates content on the internet. And she was also detained and also asked questions. And that's the problem. And look, the issue is like, people have warned people not to fly into America. And I think that's something you should consider. And I also think it's, you know, I think to some point of Hassan's privilege is he kind of, you know, did go to Paris with his family. Like, people are taking risks. And maybe because he feels like he's in a position of privilege, he can take that risk, which is kind of true. I mean, my sister's coming to visit me and we are concerned, but we also are aware that, you know, a part of us like doesn't want to stop living our lives at the threat of it. And maybe it's a hard place to be in as people who are aware of things. Like, do we stop living our lives or do we demand the right to live our lives? Is the point that we should demand we have the right to normalcy. We have the right to visit family without feeling threatened. And if we are threatened, we have the right to stand up for ourselves. Or should we buckle down and not take the risk? I think it's up to you. I think everyone has to make that decision for themselves, but you must consider the consequences. You must prepare for the consequences. But it's so disgusting that we even have to think about the consequences. That's the dilemma. No American should feel scared to fly back home. None of us should be afraid to come back home because of our political opinions. That's kind of what America's known for. And I think that's the part that we should be focused on. Instead of blaming the people for flying and visiting family, we should be looking at our government and saying, I'm sorry, when did we start detaining people for having political opinions? I mean, obviously we've done it in the past, but why are we doing it now in this, quote, free America?
False, and clarifying that her inspection was a routine, lawful process that occurs daily for many travelers, regardless of political affiliation. Claims that her political belief triggered the inspection are baseless. Our officers are following the law, not agendas, DHS said in its response.
Well, obviously the video ends right there. Obviously, we don't know. So Hassan is under the impression that they knew who he was. We don't know. This is the New York Post. So look how the New York Post covers the story. Okay. Now let's look at how CBS Chicago covered the story, because Hassan was supposed to be speaking in Chicago, right? That's where he came back early from his Paris vacation with his family and was detained, right?
He was in town to speak at the University of Chicago, but says he was detained for several hours at O'Hare and questioned about his political beliefs.
Federal agents say the prominent Twitch streamer is lying for likes. Our Sarah Maki is live at O'Hare and looking into this tonight. Sarah.
Yeah, guys, with millions of followers, Hassan Piker often talks about left-wing issues and believes that is why he was pulled aside and questioned here at O'Hare. We talked with our legal analyst about what travelers need to know.
They started asking me about crazy, like, do you like Donald Trump? It's illegal for him to even ask me those questions. Like, they can't deny me entry into my own country for, like, even if I was like, I love Hamas, they can't do that. Like, what do you mean?
That's American-born citizen, Twitch streamer, and left-wing political commentator Hassan Piker recounting a 2-hour encounter with federal agents after he arrived in Chicago from a family vacation in Paris, an incident he talked about at length with his millions of followers.
Everything I've done is fully protected under the First Amendment, okay? And none of these questions are actually valid questions to ask.
A Homeland Security official acknowledged the incident, telling us this is nothing but lying for likes. Claims that his political beliefs triggered the inspection are baseless. Our officers are following the law, not agendas.
And I suspect because this happened at an airport and an entry point into the country, that there were cameras everywhere.
Legal analyst Irv Miller told us
I'm sorry. Chet said detention on immigration is not new. I feel like you guys are melting down for no reason. It is very new for most of us. Hassan has never had this happen. I've never had this happen. It is not normal. I have never known anyone in the history of my life who was an American citizen who got pulled over and asked what they think about the war or what they think about the president. No, this is not normal. And I think you're being really weird and obtuse, or like, why are you saying this out loud? Who do you know? Name one person you know who's an American citizen who was stopped at immigration and asked about the president of the United States. I've never heard this story. Maybe it's anecdotal, but I have never, ever had anyone ever tell me a story like that. For citizens, for U.S. citizens, when we come back, there's a special line we go through. You know, it says, citizens welcome home. Okay. And then they ask us, hey, where'd you go? How much money do you have on you? Da, 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 da. I've never been asked about the president. Chet says, was he taken into another room? Yeah, he was taken into 2 separate rooms. Like, what are we talking about? Hassan is literally an American citizen. He was born here, or born in America. So what are we talking about?
location is key. International travelers give up certain Fourth Amendment rights to search and seizure that domestic travelers retain.
Immigration has an absolute right to ask you who you are and to see your identification, but they don't have a right to ask you questions and demand answers of things other than your identity and your citizenship.
He adds all travelers keep their Fifth Amendment right to remain silent, though acknowledging that could prolong your questioning at a time when border enforcement is a White House
Great point. You said even if it's not new, it's authoritarian and concerning. I agree.
priority.
The government is trying to be tougher. It's trying to be more invasive. It's getting close to that line, whether or not something's constitutional or unconstitutional, and it always ends up in the courts.
We have asked for video of this encounter to find out exactly what was said inside. When we talked to Irv Miller, he also said when talking with clients, he advises them to answer questions respectfully, but when they think that something may be going wrong, to ask for a supervisor. From O'Hare, Sarah Maki, CBS News.
So it's interesting how the news is covering the story, right? Okay, so now let's check this video out. This is NBC News. Twitch streamer Hassan Piker recalls being questioned by CBP agents. And I thought the reason we're watching it through this lens is because I want you to see that just because it's a streamer situation doesn't mean it's not a real situation, guys. The internet isn't always real life, but sometimes it is very real life. And a lot of the time it's very real life. And you have to remember, he's not just a streamer you hate on the internet. He's an American citizen with a legal right to go and come. He has the right to express his opinion. He has the right to freedom of speech. He has rights. And so he's not just some guy you hate on the internet or love on the internet. He is you. He is possibly you, an American citizen traveling back and forth, and you will feel just as afraid as anyone else would being detained by people in uniforms who are asking you questions that make you feel like, why are you asking me this? Like, why are we having this conversation right now? So the reason we're not watching Hassan's stream directly is because I want you to understand that this is important, that this is bigger than you, me, and like your favorites on the internet, right? This is a big deal.
Now to this developing story that may be related to the Trump immigration policy. Popular left-wing Twitch streamer and YouTuber Hassan Piker says he was detained at a U.S. airport for hours this weekend and questioned by U.S. Customs and Border Protection about his political beliefs, specifically on Gaza and President Trump. Now, he posted about it on X saying, quote, "It wasn't that bad, but very strange experience overall, though." And Piker's post seems to have caught the attention of the Department of Homeland Security, who replied by saying, and I quote, lying for likes. Now, we reached out to the DHS for comment. They told us, and again, quote, "This is nothing but lying for likes." Hassan Piker joins us right now live. Hassan, let's start right there with the DHS's response. Lying for likes, calling it routine. What's your response to their response?
I find it really strange that they consider asking questions that are very specific about my political commentary in general, as it pertains to Israel-Palestine, but also specifically around my loyalty to the current administration and Donald Trump, as to be a part of a routine inspection. I don't know if this is the Department of Homeland Security admitting that this is now going to be a routine part of the process at the point of entry into the country for American citizens, or I don't know what they're actually trying to say at all, because they did not deny that they actually detained me. They openly stated that they did that and also released me after questioning. And the thing that they actually omitted in that statement was the questions themselves, the questions that they had asked. And I think that's the main point of contention here.
And this all, like, the thing, I hate to say this, but one of the things that caught my attention, like, you have global entry, right? That's supposed to be the expedited line. Walk us through how all this happened, and has something like this ever happened before?
I mean, I've gotten the quadruple S on my boarding pass in the past, but the apprehension or the questioning process never actually escalated to the position that it got to this time around. This was my first time using global entry, as a matter of fact. I was coming back from France. I had gone to France with my family for Mother's Day. I had to come back early because I had a speaking engagement.
Which I do understand. Like, the point we're making is that they're targeting prominent figures in a sense, in a way to, like, kind of, I don't know if it feels like a threat almost, like, we'll even come for your favorites, but also remember not to do what Hassan did, right? You don't want to push back in any way. You don't want to in any way use your privilege as a way to see how far you can take it. Hassan said himself he's in a privileged position. So make sure that if this happens to you, you first do your research before traveling, but also just be calm, be stable, take deep breaths, and get through it. But the point is that Hassan has resources. He is rich. He was in Paris for vacation. Like, how many of us have ever done that, right? He is privileged. He can take his family to Paris for Mother's Day. Like, he's in a position of power, and yet they picked him, right? So make sure you have people on call. Make sure people are waiting for you at the airport. Make sure you're not traveling solo with nobody knowing where you're going. And maybe even take a burner phone. Some people are suggesting it. Again, it's not about just being on social media. They can scan your phone for anything. And I have known people who have traveled internationally to different places, and people scanned their phones, saw their nude photos, saw their bank accounts, saw how much money they had. Like, I don't know if you know this, but they see everything. Like, nothing is private on your phone. And that is a, quote, common practice in other places. I'm not saying it's not. It's the fact that it's happening to Americans on American soil. It's one thing for a foreign government to question a foreign person coming to their land. It's another thing for your own American government to check your phone as an American citizen and to be like, I don't think I like what I see on your phone. Excuse me? Like, America, the way that we know it now, the way that I was raised in it, is we're allowed to voice our opinions. These conservatives brag about their free speech amendment, their Second Amendment. They're all about freedom, less government. But here you are searching people's phones. You already know Hassan's opinion. What is your point? And even if they did know who Hassan was and they just happened to target him, why are they asking him questions like that? That's even worse. It's even worse if they did know who Hassan was, because Hassan is saying, I think they knew who I was. They're saying, we didn't know who you were. That's even worse. You didn't even know who he was. Then why are you asking him these questions? That's the issue. Isn't that scary to you? Don't you think that's a little strange that if your mom or dad or your brother or sister or you were coming back from somewhere and then they were all of a sudden asking you who you voted for, why should that matter? What do you mean? What do you mean? How do I think? Like, what do you mean my opinion on the president? If any conservative was questioned under Obama, they would have thrown a fit. If any conservative was questioned like that under Biden, they should have a right to throw a fit, but they should have that energy for Hassan. This should be, we all should agree that no American citizen should be questioned about how they feel about the president when coming home. We have a right to dislike our leaders. That's kind of what makes us special.
The University of Chicago, and I got my picture taken at Global Entry. I walked in, and the Customs and Border Patrol agent at the gate told me to step aside and that another agent would be coming over to take me to a separate location. And I knew that this was most likely going to happen because I'd seen news reports about immigration attorneys being apprehended at the border and detained and questioned in a similar fashion. I had seen a TikToker talk about her own personal experience a week prior. She also had global entry. And basically, I knew what was up. I knew what was coming. I suspected this would most likely happen. And given that I have immense privilege being a public personality.
And true, Chat says he was in France. He interviewed a powerful socialist French politician in his hotel room with awful lighting. I do know that he was going for work. He's been doing it. He was just on The Daily Show. He was on like a bunch of shows this last week. So he's, that's very common for a person to go on tour and just see, like, go to show to show to show. So obviously Hassan is doing a lot of like traveling and work right now. So people, I think, have him on their radar. It feels obvious that he would be on their radar.
And also having enough financial security to potentially go through a long and arduous legal process, I wanted to see where this line of questioning would go, this line of inquiry would go, instead of immediately exercising my Fifth Amendment rights. They took me to a detention area. I was surrounded by terrified families sitting on a bunch of pews.
And don't tell me you wouldn't be terrified. Every person I know who's ever been pulled over by a cop for a traffic ticket, frustrated and annoyed. Every person who's ever been detained at an airport or even had to do extra scanning, it's anxiety inducing. You get anxiety. You are afraid it's going to come back negative and you're going to have to fly back home. Don't act like it's not weird when uniformed people ask you to hold on a minute. That's why I'm so frustrated that we couldn't even come together on this one universal experience where we're all annoyed when we get pulled over. How is this controversial? Why are conservatives pretending like they haven't complained all of these years about being pulled over by cops? Okay? It's like this is what's crazy about people is like you are so determined to just be anything opposite of your quote enemy when you shouldn't even have enemies that we can't even agree on universal experiences. Nobody likes being pulled over. Not one person in the world's like, had a great day today, pulled over. Nobody likes it. Everybody hates it. It ruins everybody's day. And we couldn't even all agree on that.
And I asked around to see if any of them actually had American passports. People around me said they did not. There was an old lady in a wheelchair, and agents coming in and out of this other room with passports in hand, telling the people slowly but surely that they could leave, that they were cleared to leave. And then another agent came out and said my name. They walked me into this back room with these two metal stools. Everything was bolted down. I sat down on the chair that I assume is normally reserved for the lawyer on the corner. And in the process, they started asking me a bunch of questions. It was obvious. It felt like they knew who I was, given the line of questioning was very specific. It started off with like, what are you doing in Chicago? Things of that nature, pretty basic, boring stuff. And the more I revealed information, the more the agent kept repeating, well, since you said that, and acted like it was in line in the process of discovery that he was getting new information out of me. Well, he was be like, oh, you're.
And by the way, like when I came to Croatia for a visit, they do ask you at every airport, like, oh, what are you doing in town? What are you flying for? And even that question, even though it was so innocent, already you get anxiety. And maybe because I actually literally have been diagnosed with mild anxiety, but like you didn't even do anything wrong, and you feel like, oh my God, like I'm coming to see family, like I'm coming to see my fiance, I'm coming to see my partner, like it feels anxiety inducing every time they're like, hey, what are you doing here? It's like because you hear these horror stories and you always think like, oh, it's not going to happen to me until it does. And it's anxiety inducing. And so, there's a part of it where I really do appreciate people who are in uniform doing everything they can to show up with a smile on their face, being kind, de-escalating the situation, because it really, like, we really just are these like little intuitional, evolved animals over millions of years. Like, we have a right to feel on edge when we're around another person and we don't know what their intentions are. And so it makes sense that our body is just so nervous about the whole process, right? And so, it's one thing for them to ask like, oh, hey, what are you doing? Like, what are you coming into the country for? And you're like, oh, vacation. And then another thing for them to be like, you need to follow me. You need to come to this separate room. And, it's not like you're like, hey, what am I being detained for? And they're like, it's protocol. It's like, okay. And then what's worse is, as an American, you watch all of this American media, all these movies where it's like, never go to the second location. And everyone who watches these movies is like, I would know. I would know when to fight back. I would know when people were arresting me unjustly. I would fight back. No, you can't. Because if you do fight back, now you're the crazy person. If you don't fight back, now you're the loser who didn't stand up for yourself. So then you just have to play nice with people. And everyone's like, why'd you escalate? I feel like you're the one escalating. The moment you come to me with a gun on your hip and in a uniform saying, don't ask questions, come to this room. I feel like that's the escalation point. And now it's still on us to de-escalate and to be, quote, the grown-ups in the room, even though we're the ones with no clue what's happening in a country that's supposed to be the freest, on the planet. You act like we're not all going to feel a little targeted when we're facing this stuff, Chet says, we know that their intentions are what their intentions are. They're trying to prevent criminal or dodgy people to get into countries. Habibi, with peace and love. Do you really believe that? Are you like 5 years old? Please be so for real right now. You really think they're just innocently trying to stop people from coming into the country and it never turns into something bad? You don't think people are going to abuse their status and power? You don't think there's a way to talk to somebody that doesn't help escalate things into a weird position? You do believe that? With peace and love. I mean, everyone gets to believe in Santa. You do you. You do you.
You're in Chicago for, you're delivering a speech. Well, since you said that, what do you do? Oh, you're a Twitch streamer. Since you said that, what kind of stuff do you do on Twitch? And, I told them I play video games. Sometimes I talk about drama. And
Chat, you said, I think the majority want to do their jobs. Yeah. So they also have to follow orders from people that might be corrupt. It doesn't matter what they want. What matters is they have to follow orders, and they will do whatever it takes to not piss off their boss. And that's the problem. So you can say with your, chest, I think most of these people are really good people who are trying. Most of these people have really corrupt bosses, and they are following orders. So I don't care if your intentions are good. You're the person in uniform with a gun making people feel nervous.
And basically, we arrived at questions about what my opinions were on Donald Trump. And I thought that was strange, but I was honest. At first I said, what does this have to do with anything? But then I told him I don't like Donald Trump. And after that, he asked me about my opinion on Israel and my opinion on what's going on in Gaza. And whether or not I found Hamas to be a resistance group and found the Houthis to be a resistance group. Did I like the Houthis? Did I like Hamas? Did I like Hezbollah? Very specific questions that you would only ask if you already were...
Yeah, I feel like why would they ask him this question unless they knew who he was?
Were familiar with my commentary, which is in normal circumstances in a completely academic setting, describing, the historic reasons for why resistance exists. So things of that nature. But it almost felt like he was trying to get something out of me.
Right. It seemed clear to you that they knew who you were. Real quick, last question here. What do you think would have happened if you weren't a citizen?
Oh, I think if I wasn't a citizen, the process would not have gone down as smoothly as it did. I probably would not be allowed to enter the country, as we've seen reports on French researchers, for example, being stopped at the border and having ICE agents look through their phone to see if they've said something negative about Donald.
Hold on. Chet says, I'm not trying to downplay anything, but the way Hassan said it, the man asked those questions after Hassan described what his job was. Is there evidence this isn't business as usual? The fact that Hassan was taken to a second place, the fact that Hassan was pulled off into a separate room. So so first check, second check, third check. The fact that Hassan, he said he was on vacation for his family. And then he said, oh, what are you doing in Chicago? And said, I'm here for work. The fact that you're even being questioned about what your job is, that's the point. Why are you questioning me about what my job is? What do you mean? Why are you making this so weird? He is an American citizen. This is very abnormal. This is not normal. This is not common. This is not expected. I've never heard an American who does business outside the country and coming back having to deal with this. Chet says his name is Hassan. Perhaps that's the red flag. Well, that's racism. That's the problem. as he's being targeted. That's the point of this whole situation. Hassan is being targeted for who he is, what his name is, what he may look like, what people perceive him to be. The misinformation I've seen from conservatives saying Hassan is a Turkish citizen and this was why he was pulled over or kept because he's not an American citizen. Hassan is an American citizen. He's a born American citizen. And by the way, he's an American. This is why Americans are so racist, because even if Hassan wasn't born here, he's still an American citizen. Okay? Like the fact that he was born here, that's why Trump wants to get rid of that, by the way. Trump wants to get rid of the idea that born in America is specific to being an American because of the way that you guys will go after Hassan for not being born here, as if that makes him less American. The whole point of being an American is you don't have to be born here. You get to come here. But of course, the other perk of being an American is you get to be born here and you are American. We are unique in every way, and they're doing everything possible to discount his attachment to America, to say that he is less American because he is also Turkish. That's the point. That's the point. And this is why I would laugh 5%, but not really, because I'm not a bitch, that if my parents end up getting in trouble because they came here from Iraq 40 years ago. What? Because their name is Muslim? My dad is a Muslim name. You know what I'm saying? I've seen my relatives' names on lists associated with terrorist names. What? You're sitting here talking about, like, what's the big deal? This is a big deal. Half of my family is from Iraq. You think I'm not concerned that some of them are going to get maybe detained or in trouble? Or how about the fact that half of them had to change their names when they got here because half of you couldn't say them? My own mother changed her name when she got here because y'all couldn't say it. Okay? And then that way she wouldn't be picked on because America's racist. And the fact that my parents voted for MAGA, you know what I'm saying? We have some cognitive dissonance is real. It's a real phenomenon, bro. That doesn't mean I want to see them get hurt. It doesn't mean I want to see anybody get hurt. No one should feel scared because another human being is talking to them. And we should know this. We should know that they're going to feel scared. And it is up to us in positions of power to make sure people do not unnecessarily feel afraid.
Donald Trump, even within the context of Donald Trump taking away grants for academic research, any kind of negativity can be met with a border agent claiming that you are ineligible to enter the country. Non-citizens have significantly less rights than citizens do in this process. And it seems like even citizens are losing some of those rights as well.
Oh, Hassan Piker, we really appreciate you sharing your experience with us.
Thanks for watching.
Okay, so just an example of how people covered the story, right? There are other people that covered it, but I am worried about getting, or covered Hassan recently, like Jordan Klepper, but I'm afraid that I'm going to get in trouble if I try to show the Daily Show stuff. So I'm not going to show it to you, but I want you to know that we have to cover these stories. It's important. I want to show you one last clip because other streamers, of course, have had opinions. Other people have had opinions. And it is one of those things where it's not about having like perfect opinions. It's about universally being concerned, whether you're Republican, conservative, or leftist, or socialist, or whoever, that this is happening to people, and that's the problem. Just human to human, what are we doing? Why are you so excited to see somebody get in trouble for something they should never have been in trouble for? Here's Asmin talking to his dad about Hassan.
The main problem that Hassan has got is that Zach's always got, between 15 to 30K more viewers than him.
See, my dad's being
every fucking day.
My dad's a viewer account, Andy. Starts trying to talk shit. I never do this, right? Keep in mind, I never do this.
That's why I'm bringing it up.
You're being such an asshole. Anyway,
I know, I am.
Yeah, I know. You're being such an asshole.
I'm a Hassan follower. I've been a Hassan follower for years, and I have chat conversations with him and with Sean.
Yeah, I know. I know.
So. It's not like I'm his enemy. I'm kind of disappointed in him and going so far left, but
it is what it is.
Yeah, it's easy once you get on that slippery slope to go over the edge.
Yep.
And
all right. Well,
and by the way, give the guy a break. Let him back in the country next time.
We did. They did.
Without being, grilled by the. He's probably beaten by truncheons and everything.
So he said, let Hassan back in the country, without having to go through some stuff, right? And Asmin's like, we did. And because Asmin and all these people, they do downplay the impact of what this means. Because one, they're probably, what I mean? I don't know how much they travel. I don't know if any of these people are travel-y people, right? And I get it, but they're not facing the same fears as Hassan. And that's the point we're trying to make. That ultimately we are not all having the same experience as people, but there are things that are universal. We feel afraid, we fall in love, we care about people, we can all cause harm. Like, we might not have the same lived experience because of the way other people treat us and the way we treat people, but we are having a universal experience when it comes to feeling afraid when people in uniforms point you out, pull you out of a crowd, and decide you should be the people we pay attention to. Remember, if you guys have ever been in a social situation where you're hanging out and cops show up and they go, hey, I want to talk to you. Everyone around you is going to start to feel on edge. Like, is the person I'm with dangerous? And you're going to start to feel like, oh my God, what did I do? And then you can't do anything. The fact that Trump wants to make police officers like immune from prosecution or whatever his dream is the worry everyone should have. Conservatives should be very concerned, right? That people in uniform are unable to be prosecuted in any capacity simply because they're cops, but simply because they have uniforms. This is why we shouldn't put people in uniform on pedestals, because at the end of the day, you're just like me, bro. And the fact that they allow people with such big egos to put on that uniform and then to use it against American citizens is a part of the problem. And all I'm saying is this shouldn't be controversial. No matter who you are, we should agree we don't want people in uniforms feeling entitled to killing us, controlling us, or arresting us just because they're wearing a uniform. And I feel like, I feel so stupid that I even have to say it like that, like, duh. But yet here we are, and people are arguing about whether or not you should just shut up and take it when another person decides you're the problem. Well, living in a country that taught us to be rebellious. America's so confusing. America's this country that's like a rebellious country that was rebellious against its originators, that literally is like, I want to do what I want when nobody can tell me what to do. But yet here we are. Here we are, Again, I understand that some people in chat want to give the benefit of the doubt to people. But I think you should reevaluate where that like maybe bias comes through. Because if you're imagining, well, if I was a cop, I would do this. If I was but you're not. And if you are, then you will know the bullshit around you. The same way that we keep telling you tales. We keep saying like, hey, there's a lot of bad corruption in the military. There's bad corruption in these police agencies. People are whistleblowing. They are telling you and you're not listening. And you're thinking, well, if I was a cop, I'd be a good person. That's nice. The dilemma is that you can go in a good person, but if you keep following orders to do bad things, you're just a bad person with the belief that you're still a good person. If you follow orders in a uniform that are bad, you're just a bad person now. And you need to decide if you're going to keep being a bad person or if you're going to start becoming a better person. That's it. And I'm saying I can be empathetic and understand the pressure and understand the social, ganging up on, you're going to feel singled out if you don't do it, right? I understand. But I'm going to encourage you to get out of that position as quick as possible so you're not a bad person. Because look, you're not a bad person forever. But if you keep being a bad person, that's just what you are. And that's the problem. And I know philosophically no one's good or bad in the traditional sense, right? Because we're all these evolved animals over millions of years. But I'm saying you can still be a little less bad every day. All of us do bad every day. And I'm asking you to do 2% less every day, 1%, 0.5% even. And I'm not exempt from this. All of us do bad every day. We can only ever try to harm reduce.